In this video, we're going to be taking a Cub Cadet 70 that's in pieces that has a high-low transmission, and we're going to split my 100 and put the high-low transmission off the 70 onto my 100. Should be a pretty good video. We'll have to take apart the high-low, put a new bearing, new seals, and split my 100. So I hope you enjoy the video. Now, that's it for that part. So here's our auxiliary box. And it just bolts onto the front of the transmission, and you get a little drive shaft that goes in here, and yeah, so pretty simple little setup. Now I don't know anything about this transmission. I don't even know if it has oil in it. I don't know anything. Somebody has started the restoration on this, it looks like, kind of, and they never finished it. I'm a little worried. The fill hole for the auxiliary has been open, and I don't know if it leaks. On this real quick, might do that off camera. See if it even has fluid in it, because she's got just a kind of rattle can paint job. So who knows if the seals have ever been replaced. And yeah. Moment of truth. Ooh. Not good. No oil at all. Not good at all, Jack. Oops. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Well, that's a learning lesson. Luckily that ain't much oil. I thought this was sealed. Alright, so I got a seal for the trans. We'll get this pin knocked out, get this transmission apart. Have a replacement. Now, I know behind this, I'll share the website on the breakdown of this transmission, but there is an O-ring behind here. And when I took this to the shop, the reason why I'm replacing this gasket here is when I was at the shop cleaning this, all the solvent was coming out of the shaft seal. I don't know if any was coming out of this O-ring area, but we're going to take this off anyways. Put a new O-ring in it. Snap ring. Let's see how hard this is gonna come out. So, gotten to this point, it looks like I need to get these dogs off, because I'm assuming in here is a bearing that the shaft's pressed on. So I need to get these dogs off, and then we can finish getting this all the way out. So I'll kind of work on that. So never mind, when you go to get this out, you just got to make sure these splines are lined up so they're not binding, and this just pops right out. In a couple days since I've been out here, I found an awesome website. I'll try to throw it on the video. But basically we got this roll pin here. We need to get this out, and then we can slip this whole gear off, and then get to our snap rings that are back here to get our bearing out. Here it is. Focus. Anyways, the shoulder, we need to make sure this shoulder part goes back toward this gear. So luckily I got a camera so I can remember. Pull that off. And we'll pull this off. You probably got to be careful, because these will probably just slide right off. And those are pretty good shape. A little grime in there. But they feel pretty good. Got this thrust washer here. That pops off. And it's a good thing we're taking this bearing apart because it's all coming apart. You guys can see it. Probably didn't help that I whacked on this a few times assuming it would come out. But there is this snap ring that holds that bearing in, and there's a snap ring on the inside in here, which I'll show you guys here in a second. Boy, that bearing's not making my life any easier. Alright. Really should be using a brass hammer, but ooh. There she is. There's what's left of that seal. Yeah. That's why we have no transmission fluid, for sure. There's a snap ring in here, so there's no way you're just going to drive this out without pretty much completely disassembling the transmission. Now this has a little lip here, and the bearing that I have does not. A little worried about that. I don't think the snap ring sits in that. No way it does. Not even possible. So here's our seal. I'll get this driven out, and then I have parts from Napa, and I have part numbers if you're in a bind. There's a little chip on that. Shoot. It ain't that bad, but I'll get this driven out. It's kind of common sense. Do that. Assuming you drive it. I don't know what way you're going to drive that out. Looks like this way. Yep. That's it. Drive it out that way. So we'll get these surfaces cleaned up and we'll see if the Napa bearing and seal will fit. So ran to Napa, I got the right bearing, seal, no luck. So I got that ordered, but for now we'll get this old bearing off. And like I said, it's just got this little snap ring right here. I'm just going to use a pick to get it off. And now we need to get the bearing off, which I think we could. Just like that. Now we have our just our shaft. Here is the bearing I got from Napa. Here's our part number up there, I think. And probably what we'll end up doing, we'll take this rubber seal off here and kind of clean this out because it's not going to have grease, it's going to be gear oil. And we'll put that sucker right on there. Bearing. Oh, that's nice. Throw our snap ring back on. So one thing I kind of noticed, as I said earlier, this bearing in here is just, you know, it doesn't fit as tight as I want it to. It's not, come on. It's not exactly loose, you know, side to side, but it's a little too loose for my liking. You'd think there'd be a slight press fit, but there's not. Same thing with the old bearing. It's just not that tight, and I really don't want this rotating. So what we're going to do, this is called sleeve retainer. We'll put a little bit of this on the outside of the bearing, put this in, and it'll kind of take up that space.
Get a little bit in here.
Let's put that in. All right, we'll get our snap ring in. Now, there's not too much wear on this thing. I'm pretty impressed. We are probably going to flip this. There's some wear on this side. So we'll just flip this and give it a fresh side to wear against. We got our sun gears here. I am gonna give it a little to brake clean. Alright. Got this cleaned up. We are gonna put a little lube on the shaft. I got some engine assembly lube I'll use. Just get these all lined up. Just like so. Okay. Now we'll get our gear here. If you remember, when I undid it, make sure the shoulder goes against the other gear, so it's lined up. I'm gonna clean this up off camera. Should probably replace these roll pins, but man, this thing was tight, so I'm pretty confident in it. So that's pretty much that. We'll get this seal in here. Drive it till it's flush. And now we have a gearbox that won't leak all the fluid out of it. Sweet. All right. Got assembly lube all over this. Never mind that RTV job now. The key thing when you're putting this transmission together, you gotta make sure these splines line up. You kind of gotta jimmy them in. You can see the two separate sets of splines right there on the shift. I don't know what you call that, shift paw. So we'll get that in. We're lined up on both now. Just gotta do a little jimmying and you should be good to go. Now we'll just push this in, if she'll go. Alright. And now we gotta throw this big snap ring in to hold that retainer in. There it is. Had the snap ring upside down. There you go. That thing is pretty much together. Well, there's our gasket. Not the prettiest thing, but we'll get this on the transmission and go from there. Now I'm gonna pull this whole cowl off. It's gonna be easier. I've got clutch work I gotta get done. So I'll pull the whole column off, get the hood up, and let's see what we have going on down here. This clutch on this thing, throw out bearing, everything's about junk. So the next step here, before you pull this whole column assembly off, you need to pull this pin down here. This is for your clutch throwout bearing mechanism. That pulled off and this pin out, which mine is plumb wore out. Now the next thing we work on is this right here. This lever is for your clutch for your mower deck or attachment. We're just going to get this off, kind of pull this to the side, and so we don't have to mess with any adjustments. Now we got that off, we'll get our starter switch off, and I like to just unbolt this. Just going to unbolt it, leave the wires attached. Next thing we'll do, we'll remove the air cleaner and get to the choke and the throttle plate. Remove this screw that goes to the governor. We're going to remove this bracket, and this actually holds the throttle and the choke cable all on one, so we don't have to mess with any of this. Anyways, a lot of these bolts on these Cub Cadets and Farmall's Internationals actually have a IH symbol right in the center of the bolt. Pretty cool. I know some people will pay quite a bit of money for those when they're restoring a tractor to have those OEM bolts on there. Pretty cool little, I don't know. They didn't have to do that, but they did. So pretty much at this point, this thing's ready to come off. The wires that are up inside here, you're just going to snake them down, but I'll show you. We'll get the bolts off that mount it. As you can see here, previous owner cut this out. For what reason, I don't know. But we'll get these bolts off.
That one's already loose.
Alright, show everybody your shirt.
Look.
What kind is that?
It's a rumbly.
No. What's it say on your shirt?
I can't really read it.
Nichols and Shepherd. Now we're kind of in the meat potato of things. Here's our clutch assembly here and our steering. I have had to replace this on this tractor. But the weird thing is I noticed, and I guess when you look at the other tractor, this whole thing right here has been cut out. And I don't know why. If any Cub Cadet experts can maybe tell me why somebody might do that, let me know. But yeah, pretty interesting. That's just been notched all out. I don't think it's hurting anything, so we're just going to kind of leave it. But now let's get the transmission and everything off the back of this one.
Yep.
So I can't record it very well. It's too dang dark. Anyway, before all the linkages you got to get, your clutch linkage and your brake linkage, and you should be able to pull this thing out. But unlike on the other mower, we got to get the seat cover off so we can slide the whole transaxle back. So I'll do that real quick. It's just 4 bolts.
Okay.
Woo! Here, go put that over by the racks.
Ooh, that's heavy.
She ain't no puppy. So in theory, when we pull this transaxle out, this whole thing should come out with it. And yeah, it should come out with it. We'll see here in a second. So basically, we'll move the whole transaxle this way. The throw out bearing lever there will come with it. And we'll see how. Alright, so originally I was wrong. We're actually going to have to drive these pins out for the clutch assembly, and then we can pull our whole transaxle out. So I'll work on driving these pins out, go get the clutch off, and get it pulled out. Look at the throw-out bearing. There's nothing left on that. It's just gone. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it'll come off. Alright. Now the transmission can come out. So the clutch and all that crap will stay right here on the engine, essentially here. That's what we're gonna do at least. Alright, so now we can start trying to pull this trans back. I'm just going to use the shift lever here. Well, that wasn't in my intentions, but it's alright. Here's a factory transmission. No high-low, just base model. Nothing fancy. So it looks like this has already got mounting holes for the high-low. So here's what I'm going to do. And you guys may think it's not the smartest thing. I'm going to clean this transmission off. I know it leaks, but I know it's a good transmission. I'm going to take the high-low off this transmission and put it on here. Does it make sense? Maybe not. But I know this transmission's good. I've serviced it once or twice since I've owned it. I know it shifts good. It does need axle seals, but we'll get this cleaned up and we'll get the high-low transmission on. But I wanted to show you guys this. Look at this bearing. It's just gone. There's nothing left in it. There's 1 or 2 balls left in it. These look like shims right here, or another spring, I'm not quite sure. The other drive shaft looks a little different, and it's for the high-low transmission, so I don't know if there's a difference or not, but it doesn't have this spring-looking thing right here, so I'll have to kind of look into that. So I'll work on getting this off, getting this cleaned up kind of off camera, and then we'll get the high-low off of that and slap it on here. Alright, so the next thing we'll do, we'll throw the drive gear onto the transmission input shaft. Bushing here goes out. A little bit more. Alright, that's it for that. Not too impressed kind of with this gasket surface here, so I'm just going to use a little high tack, brush that on here on one side. I don't really need bolt holes and stuff. Like a glove. Get her bolts on. Alright, so everything seems to be functioning, so that's good. So, if a guy was smart, and I didn't think of this till I just put it on, there's an O-ring on this side for a shaft, on the shaft, and there's an O-ring here, and I did not replace them. And neither did I replace the input shaft seal on the transmission. Honestly, I should probably take it apart and do it, but you know me, I like to make things hard on myself. We're going to fill this with oil and see if it leaks out tonight. So I'll throw some oil in this, and I don't know, I'll probably just assemble it and make it hard on myself. So, yeah. So to give you guys a kind of a comparison here, this longer drive shaft is for your just standard transmission, no high-low transmission. And then here is your auxiliary transmission drive shaft. You can definitely see the difference here in the length. I mean, you're looking at, what's that, 6 inches difference? So the one weird thing, you can't really see it very well. There's actually a spring in here. They call it a cushion spring or something, where this bearing sits. Now this one doesn't have one. It's just this sitting here. So I don't know if it's supposed to have it or not. I ordered one. I honestly do not know if that's supposed to be there or not. So yeah, I don't know. Before I put the transmission in, this is something I kind of got to figure out, but if I didn't show you guys earlier in the video, just in case, look how bad this throwout bearing is. So what I'm going to do to be able to service this one, I'm actually going to take down here in the dust seal, drill just a tiny hole, and I'm going to get a needle greaser and throw some grease in this so I don't have to replace it, because it's dry, you can hear it. Alright, so we got our hole in our bearing here and a little needle greaser. Alright, I'm going to tell you, it was too hard to record and try to do all this at once. I made an absolute mess, but anyways, I completed my job here. This bearing feels way different. Feels like a brand new bearing. So now what I'll do with that hole, I'll just take a little bit of this RTV. This is all I got. Just kind of cram that in there a little bit. Kind of seal that off, stop that grease from flinging out. And we should be good. No, it's not the right way to do things, but we'll get a couple more years out of this bearing so it doesn't look like our other one. Alright, pretty much put this in reverse order. Nothing too complicated. So one of the harder parts here is getting this drive shaft, which I can't show you very well, but it needs to come up through here to get up to the clutch area. So what I've done here is just a little floor jack on the front. Be careful that doesn't come off, because that transmission is going to come crashing down. But yeah, you're just going to slide your differential transmission in. It has these ears that will end up sitting on the frame. See if you can see them a little bit better. And you just slide it on in. And we'll start getting our clutch hooked up. Alright, so we got a slight problem here. We're going to have to pull our drive shaft off and get this transmission mostly stabbed. If you can see the shift lever here, what's happening, this transmission has to be kind of angled down in order to get it in, because this shift lever is hitting the tunnel of the tractor, and this tunnel's not removable. So I'll pull this drive shaft off. We'll stab the trans as far as we can, and then shimmy our drive shaft back in. I really didn't want to have to do that, because I hate laying on the ground. I do it every day, but it is what it is.
Alright, got one out here. Just bring you up.
Okay, I know you didn't see any of that. It's actually easier just to pull the whole frame onto the trans. That engine really is no puppy, but I'm going to get under there, stab that drive shaft. This is back a couple inches, because you got to remember we got to put our clutch and everything in. So I'll get this going. We're just going to fish this drive shaft. Looks like underneath be honest with you, getting that drive shaft in there and that roll pin in was probably the least fun part of this project. Not fun at all. So now we've got our back plate here, or right here's our back plate. This will go on to the very back here. sit right there. First, this hot rod needs to go on. These slots sit right there. Okay, and then our clutch will go in there, and then other part of our clutch. So now I'll move the transmission forward, kind of get it lined up in here. Throw a little grease in there, keep it happy. Alright, we'll move either the transmission forward or the tractor back, one of the two here, whatever's gonna give first. Well, the cool thing is I'm not scared to show my mistakes, which I've never done this, so look what I forgot to put on. Our clutch engagement deal. So I gotta split this thing back apart. It ain't take me 5 minutes, but I'll do that off camera. But that goes right there where that throw-up bearing goes. Oops. Alright, like I was saying before my battery died, now that our clutch is in, you guys can see that right in there, the little hole. Focus. Right there. So now we need to get our dowel pin. There'll be a hole in the drive shaft here. We need to get that rounded pin and get it driven into there. And we're officially attached. We need to get everything back here on the back. All these mounting bolts, there's only, what, 6 of them mounted up. You don't want to mount those right away. You want to kind of keep everything neutral so you can shimmy things together and just keep your floor jack underneath there supporting it. So I'll get that dowel pin driven in. I'm not going to bore you with that. And then get this thing together. Quick edit here. Before you get that pin in the drive shaft in front of the clutch, you know, that ties in the clutch to the drive shaft and the engine, you have to put the center console back on with the clutch so you can basically put pressure on that clutch spring in order for you to be able to put the pin in. Alright, we got the console on. We'll get the clutch hooked up. I'll get that hooked up underneath. Can't really video that very well. Alright, now we got the clutch hooked up. I need to get the return spring on it. We can compress our clutch spring. Nice compress here. Now we can get our pin in with ease, hopefully. Let me tell you, that was the least fun part of this whole project, is getting that bugger on there. That was ridiculous. Now I will get this thing back together and let's test it, and we'll see. I'm not going to bore you with putting the steering wheel on and all that stuff. I just did all that taking it off. So I'll get this thing together and let's go take it for a spin. So I wanted to share something pretty important with you guys. Like I said, I've been putting this together off camera, and I noticed on this clutch pedal here, or this clutch linkage, this goes for the throwout bearing, I'm like, why is this thing torched? And I really got to looking at it. There's a reason for it. I don't have very much clearance down here. That's all the clutch I got. Right there. That's it. And that is why this, for the high-low, was notched out. So I have two choices. I tried to notch that out where it sits, or I just run it for now to test it, which I'm gonna run it for now and test it. And then I'm gonna have to torch that out. I'm gonna have to torch a notch out of there so it doesn't hit the steering box. So I'll finish throwing this thing together and see what happens. This is how you learn, I suppose. So let's get to it. I want to show you guys how slow that creeper is. This is for like if you're rototilling. Look how slow that is. And I think the other gear is direct drive. So there's first gear, high. Show me your shirt. What shirt you got on today?
For my legs.
Yeah? So what do you think?
Well, it was pretty good.
Yeah?
I mostly just left everything on it.
Yeah?
If you saw that that it was going by itself, it was actually the new transmission.
Yeah?
And also we took the ag tires off the old one. We put it on here.
Oh yeah.
We left everything on it.
Yeah.
Mostly. You can see right there. That is a 2 transmission.
The high-low trans?
Yeah, and
there is supposed to be a vent on this trans, and I made one, kind of, and a lot of this fluid's coming out, but on the breakdown, the tube's supposed to be a couple inches long with a vent. So I'm kind of wondering if I just need a longer breather tube here. But besides the leak coming from the breather on there, could be because it's overfilled, everything under here looks pretty good. So only fluid leaking out of that is the fluid coming out of the, I believe, the tube on the top. I don't think any's coming out of the shaft. Maybe some is, I'm not sure. But doesn't look like it. Well, that pretty much wraps it up on this one. I know it wasn't very exciting. Few things. The input shaft seal on this is supposed to be the exact measurements that I got off one of the forums. And after I just got done working it, I did see one drip. So I don't know what that's about. Maybe I overfilled the transmission. Not quite sure. I'll just watch it, see what happens. I am going to have to cut that. like I showed you guys earlier, I am gonna have to cut the, I don't know, the clutch mechanism. I'm gonna have to notch that out because it hits the transmission. Here's the old one right here. This is the one I should have put on the tractor and I did not. So, learning lesson. But I'll tell you, with the narrow rims and the ag tires, it turns way sharper. I think some wheel weights on the back, this thing will have a lot less wheel slip when I'm pulling my little scraper. Definitely worth the investment. I want to give my buddy Ryan a shout out. He sold me this other tractor with a bunch of parts for dirt cheap. I mean, I got the tractor for $300 as a Cub Cadet 70 and a pile of pieces. And it came with the ag tires and the high-low transmission. Just the tires alone are worth $300. That's excluding the transmission. So I'll make some more videos in the future on improving this thing, taking the good parts off the 70 and putting it on here. Yeah, so I did delete some footage on the beginning, so I apologize if you made it this far. Just explaining the 70 that I got. So, but yeah, that was a little, took a little longer than expected, but went pretty well. So I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you on the next